The information shared on Light Body Radio is for educational and informational purposes only. The content of this podcast is not intended to be a substitute for professional medical advice, diagnosis, or treatment. Always seek the advice of your physician, licensed healthcare provider, or qualified wellness practitioner with any questions you may have regarding a medical condition or health goal. Dr. Lara May, her guests, and affiliates do not claim to cure, prevent, or treat any condition and are not responsible for any actions taken based on the information shared in this podcast. By listening to this podcast, you acknowledge that you are responsible for your own health decisions and that any actions you take based on the content are at your own discretion and risk. Thank you for tuning in to Light Body Radio.
Welcome to Light Body Radio, where science meets soul and healing gets multidimensional. I am your host, Dr. Lara May, functional medicine pharmacist, master intuitive Reiki channel, and certified life and health coach. Here we decode root causes, transmute stuck energy, and empower your full spectrum healing journey, body, mind, and light body. This isn't just wellness, it's awakening, grounded in science, guided by spirit, and designed for your evolution. Let's rise and radiate. Welcome to the next level of you. Hello and welcome to Light Body Radio. I am your host, Dr. Lara May, and on today's Wellness Illuminated episode, we are going to talk about peptides. They are a very present subject in today's functional medicine conversations, alternative healing conversations. And so I wanted to demystify a little bit about them today and give you, as always, like straight talk and straight information and sort of take out some of the noise. So let's jump right in and get started. If you've been hearing the word peptides everywhere lately, you're not hallucinating, you're not imagining things on podcasts, social media, a variety of wellness spaces. I'm sure there's a lot that you're hearing, and it can be a little overwhelming. And so maybe you're curious, like, what's real, what's hype? And so today we're going to get into that. What is real and what is the hype? And so we're going to slow this conversation down a little to be able to get into the details and really understand what they are and what they are not. So this episode is not about biohacking your way out of your body or out of a inflammatory situation or disease state that you may be struggling with. And it's not about chasing trends or shortcuts. And it's definitely not about doing something to quote unquote fix yourself. Today is about intelligent cellular signaling, working with your biology instead of trying to override it. Peptides are one of the most misunderstood tools in modern healing. They have been sensationalized, they've been oversimplified, and in some cases, completely misrepresented and misused. But when you understand what peptides actually are and how they communicate with your body and your biology, they become something very different. They become the reminders, they become the messengers, because that's really what peptides in general, speaking on a, just at the most basic of biology, they are the messengers. So they are signals that help the body remember how to heal. And that's where peptides fit beautifully into the kind of work that we like to talk about here. So this is where, the science really meets your healing journey. And because healing, again, like there's the vast difference between healing and a cure. And we're not talking about anything quote unquote curative today. We are talking about filling in the gaps of your body signaling pathways intelligently and intentionally and not forcefully. So let's start with the basics. What are peptides? Peptides are short chains of amino acids, Period. End of story. That's the most basic biological definition that you would learn in Bio 101 or Chemistry 101. They are actually smaller than proteins, and they naturally exist in your body in a plethora, and there are a myriad of them. So your body uses peptides constantly, naturally, on its own, every day in and day out, and you don't even realize that this is happening. What do? They help regulate hormones. They help regulate your immune function, your metabolism, your inflammation pathways, tissue repair, brain signaling, digestion, pretty much everything. If we didn't have peptides, then we wouldn't really be living organisms. Peptides are not drugs. They are not hormones in and of themselves. So again, like, let's keep this simple. Peptides are different than proteins. Peptides are smaller than proteins. And so again, I'm going to say they are not drugs. So they are not FDA approved products. So if you are looking into peptides, do not expect to find something that is FDA approved. And again, there's a whole nother political and drug industry side of this that we're not going to talk about today, but keep this in mind. So they are not foreign substances trying to override your system, which is what most pharmaceutical drugs are. Okay, so peptides are messengers. They are actual messages for proteins and other cellular functions to operate properly. So I kind of like to think about them as like the text messages sent directly to specific cells. So they don't shout, they don't force, they don't override. They are very precise instructions. And they will send messages like repair here, calm inflammation over here, restore sensitivity here. And oh yeah, remember how this tissue works and how it's supposed to work at its best? Do that over here. And distinction very much matters, because modern life in general creates massive signal interference, chronic stress, poor sleep, inflammation, burnout, hormonal disruption. We know that. We talk about that on this podcast all the time. All of that scrambled communication is going on inside the body. And so when the body loses clarity of signal, your natural homeostatic restoring mechanism, so that healing process that your body naturally does, is broken down. And it is part of that signal confusion. So peptides really help restore the signal clarity in your body. I hope that makes sense. And so now let's talk about how they actually work, that cellular intelligence and action. So peptides work by binding to very specific receptors on very specific tissues. And that's the key. So let me put this into maybe an imagery that you can relate to. So think about it as like a lock and key. So if you think about like an old school doorknob, and it's funny that I even have to use the word old school, because so much of it, our technology is by touch these days. But if you remember a doorknob that had a keyhole, and then you have a very specific key with a very specific pattern that fits into that keyhole that unlocks it, that is what we're talking about here. That's how peptides work. So each peptide carries a very unique message, a very unique binding configuration, and the cells and the aspects of your body that are meant to receive it know exactly how to receive it and how to read it. So let's give you another example here. So some peptides primarily communicate with the gut and the immune system, and they signal the body to support intestinal lining repair, they calm inflammation, and improve immune tolerance. Others communicate with muscle and connective tissue. So they send signals for regeneration after injury, for improved recovery, and structural repair in general. So there are also peptides that speak directly to the brain and the nervous system, supporting neuroprotection, cognitive clarity, sleep regulation, and stress resilience. And then there's other peptides that influence metabolic signaling. They help cells respond more appropriately to insulin. They support appetite regulation, and they are all about restoring your metabolic flexibility. And then, of course, there are definitely peptides that support mitochondrial function. So they are essentially helping your cells produce energy more efficiently and correctly. And this is huge for fatigue, burnout, and aging. And so this is why peptides can feel so different. Like if you're participating in them, they can actually feel different from taking very, maybe a specific type of supplement, or maybe even HRT itself, which can be very specific, hormone replacement therapy, which that can fall under the umbrella of thyroid hormone supplementation. Of course, your sex hormones that women and men both use for supplementation. So these peptides, you'll feel the difference because they are so specific. They are not flooding your system generically overall. They are delivering very targeted instructions. So instead of yelling, "Hey, body, fix everything right now all at once," the peptides are saying, "Hey, gut lining, repair right here. Hey, muscle tissue, repair right here. Hey, joint, maybe ankle sprain or knee surgery. Let's help you repair right here. Hey, brain, let's reduce some inflammation and restore some signaling to combat that brain fog or ADHD. And hey, metabolism, remember how you were amazing and optimal at breaking down these macros and storing and or using them for energy? Let's do that again." Because again, these messages and messengers are specific. The body doesn't have to guess. There are only specific cells that they're meant to act on. So again, we're not flooding. This is not a blanket like a carpet bombing approach. This is very precise and very specific. It's a clear signal with a clear receptor response and very much less internal noise. When the signal is clear, the body often does exactly what it was designed to do. Imagine that. Heal, regulate, adapt. Again, return to homeostasis, exist in that beautiful balance of homeostasis. And this is why peptides are not about overriding biology. They are about restoring communication, restoring function, restoring balance. So let's talk about who peptides are for, and maybe even for who they're not, because I think this is a very important conversation too. Even as a practitioner, I listen to a lot of different podcasts and information. And sometimes you'll hear things like, "Oh, this one, everyone can take this one's good for everyone." And I'm sorry, but I'm just of the opinion that there is no one size fits all. And there is no such thing as one thing is good for everybody, no matter what. So peptides can be incredibly supportive for people experiencing nervous system depletion, the emotions and the exhaustion of burnout, perimenopause, menopause, any sort of hormonal transition. That goes for men as well. Metabolic resistance, chronic inflammation, brain fog, immune dysfunction and dysregulation, and again, recovery from injury or illness. They can also be helpful for people thinking about longevity. So not from a place of obsession. And I can think of a couple platforms that are in the biohacking world that I feel like are completely obsessed with the concept of longevity. But so this is, again, a place of optimization. And for a desire of resilience and long-term function, feeling as good as we can for as long as we can, and not accepting the concept that just because our biological age is increasing, that certain things necessarily will naturally just start to fail or decline or to get stiff or sore or hurt or any of those things. That's all BS. Those are all old school mantras and ways of thinking that I feel like are very outdated and not even true. And so, again, thinking about longevity from the position of resilience and long-term function. Peptides are not a shortcut. They do not replace good sleep. They do not bypass trauma responses. They do not override a dysregulated nervous system. So we still need those baseline lifestyle functions and skills and abilities. And so you might start taking a certain specific peptide to help get into your deep sleep cycle. But if you are already drinking caffeine too late in the day, or alcohol right before bed, or too much blue light right before bed, then you're still not helping yourself as much as you could be. And so dialing in all the other things is really sort of the key to all overall success here. So they don't work as well as they can when the body doesn't feel safe. Again, when the body is stuck in survival mode, is in fight or flight all the time, even the most elegant signaling can be ignored and, again, just not functioning up to snuff. And so that doesn't excuse us from addressing these baseline foundational habits and approaches that, again, we talk about almost ad nauseum on this podcast, I feel like. But it's important because the more that we hear it and the more that we practice it, then the more it does become an ingrained habit and just a way of life instead of something that new that we're trying. And so if peptides work best when there's a solid foundation, when we are addressing our stress, when the nervous system has some stability, and when the body feels supported enough to respond in the appropriate way. So peptides definitely amplify your own body's innate intelligence, and it does not get created out from nothing. And so there's already this baseline of intelligence signaling that's happening there. And again, we're just reminding the body, we're giving it the little tools to bridge those gaps. So let's talk about safety, because that's a big issue. So safety, quality, and sourcing. So peptides are powerful, again, because they're specific, and specificity definitely requires respect. And this is where my pharmacist hat comes on. So dosing matters, timing matters, sourcing matters, and context matters. More is not always better by a long shot. And I feel like the old mantra of start low and go slow doesn't fit anywhere better than right here with this conversation and these signals and these messengers. Stacking peptides without strategy can often backfire because you could be overloading a certain signaling pathway. Like, let's talk about your mitochondria. If you are piling on, maybe you're already experimenting with methylene blue, and then now you're going to pile on some MOTS on top of that. Those two things are great tools individually, and they could even be great tools, in and of themselves, working in conjunction and as a team. But if you overdo it with the dosing of either of those things, either individually or together, then you can often precipitate what we call paradoxical reactions and paradoxical symptoms. So you actually could blow out your mitochondria and, then start feeling like rebound fatigue, or, some of these other symptoms that come along with overstressing and overdoing it with the mitochondria. So copying someone else's protocol without understanding your own biology can create more confusion instead of more of that internal clarity. So peptides should never be used in isolation, meaning without some deeper understanding of what's going on with your system, because they are part of the system. And the system includes nervous system regulation, metabolic foundations, hormonal context, and of course, individualized assessments. So these should feel supportive to your system, not aggressive, again, not a band-aid. They're very subtle. They are not overwhelming. They are very precise and intelligent. And though they're feeling trendy right now, they've been around for decades. and will still be around in decades to come. And so they are actually evidence-based. There is lots of research out there if you just take the time to dig and look and be discerning with where the information is coming from. And so I would also definitely recommend that you always, with most things on this podcast, always work with a practitioner, because they can be your guide. They can be your sounding board. They can help you discern where exactly they fit into your healing plan and your healthcare journey right now from where you are. Because again, like anything else, ideally, your body should not need them forever. They should be a temporary bridge helping restore that body's homeostasis. And then you should be able to release them, cycle off, and then if you need to later, you can always cycle back on. But very, very few peptides even have, I think, an appropriate place for long-term, daily, forever implications. So keep that in mind too. If you hear practitioners out there saying, oh, you can take this every day, forever, no problem. I don't know. I would question that and I would dig a little deeper. And that's what, again, I think I always encourage on this show too, is that take whatever I say with a grain of salt and then do your own research. Get out there and dig for the information. Maybe obviously compare what I'm saying to other places, and that might sometimes compound your confusion, but it also might actually bring you some clarity, because we all have, again, this innate intuition and innate deeper understanding of what our body needs. And so you'll start to feel like, ooh, yeah, like that feels right, or no, like that doesn't jive. I don't feel like that is consistent for me and my body right now. And so I want to zoom out and talk a little bit about like the era of healing that we're in right now. We are moving out of an era of what we've been in for, I feel like, decades, if not over a century, which is suppression medicine. And we are moving into an era of signaling medicine, of precision medicine. And this is true even in allopathic Western medicine. It is definitely moving into more of a precision-based model, much more slowly than the functional medicine side and the integrative medicine side, but it is getting there. And so instead of shutting symptoms down, and shutting systems down, really, if you think about, I think the carpet bombing approach is pretty right on when we think about a lot of what allopathic medicine does. We are beginning and finally starting to not only ask better questions, but being able to discern better answers and having those tools to fulfill those answers. And so now we're starting to ask, what message is missing in my body? We are starting to finally have such a deep understanding of pathophysiology and how our biology and those chemical reactions happening in our body actually work on a step-by-step basis, that we are actually finally able to discern that very specific message that's missing. Or what of these signaling pathways is distorted or out of whack, and how can we restore the appropriate signaling pathway? Or what does the body need to remember how to do correctly? Maybe it used to do it fine and you didn't have an issue, but now something has happened, whether it's an injury or an illness or maybe just chronic stress over many years, and now your body is not so great. I think this is where like the conversation around glucose and insulin sensitivity is a perfect example, where we need to remind the body how to bind the insulin and release the glucose and burn the fat and that whole signaling and chemical pathway. So peptides belong in this new era of precision and signaling type of medicine or type of approach to health and wellness and health and well-being. They are not about controlling the body. They are about collaborating with it, again, filling in the gaps of the signal pathways. And when used wisely, they support regeneration, resilience, longevity, without overriding the body's innate intelligence. So in upcoming episodes, I'm going to walk you through some more specific peptides. We'll get down into the names of maybe some of the ones you've been hearing about for metabolism, for nervous system repair, for healing and longevity, for injuries, and how I think about them using them responsibly and intentionally. So I would like for you to just, think about this and maybe even re-listen to this episode and think about, I want you to come to this conversation with curiosity and excitement and questioning. Again, like all of this is information. It is not meant to cure anything or treat a specific diagnosis of anything. This is about pathways and signaling to restoring homeostasis. And so I'm going to leave you with some questions that I want you to think about. Where in your body do you feel like you need clearer signals? Where in your body do you feel like you need a clearer signal? Not more force, not a Band-Aid, not a carpet bomb, but a very specific signal to restore a specific function in your body. So if this episode has sparked curiosity about peptides, about what they can do and what they can't do, then I've created a free resource for you. It's going to live in the show notes for this episode. So pop on over to drlaramay.com/podcasts and find the episode on peptides, and you will find a free guide. It's called the Peptides Fast Track Guide. And in the guide, we walk you through, again, what peptides are, how they work. And in that guide, also, I do get into specifics about which ones are commonly used for things like stuttering today. Sorry, guys. Metabolism, energy, longevity, mitochondrial function, and what to know about safety, sourcing, again, where are they coming from, who's making them, are the labs that you're ordering from, are they USP approved and inspected? That's really important for safety. And how to have an informed and grounded conversation with your healthcare provider. And again, be aware these are not FDA approved drugs or prescriptions. And so I would not expect your PCP or your GP to just know about these and be able to speak informed about them. So maybe adjust your expectations about who you're going to talk to, what kind of practitioner you're going to talk to, maybe who you're going to add to your healthcare team. I'm a big proponent of having a variety of different practitioners on your healthcare team because there's a myriad of strengths and weaknesses and knowledge bases and foundations. And so I definitely don't think any of us should be pigeonholed into one person for everything. It's an unreasonable expectation for us to think that one physician is going to be able to know everything about our body and take care of it all. I mean, allopathic medicine doesn't even work that way. That's why we have specialists. So these things and the resources I'm providing you are educational. They are not prescriptive, and they are designed to help you feel empowered, not pressured. And so you can download that free resource again at drlaramay.com/podcasts. Find the episode about the peptides and it will live there. And we just ask that you pop in your email address and you get the free download. No big deal. And again, remember that healing doesn't require intensity. It requires precision, timing, safety, appropriate dose, all of those things. This episode is just the beginning of our peptide conversation here for this year. And we're going to continue approach this with intelligence, respect, reverence, and grounded practicality and grounded in evidence-based research. Because healing really doesn't happen when we push harder, when we go balls to the wall. It happens when the right message reaches the right cell at the right time. So I hope this episode finds you all well. And I hope this episode has sparked some questions and some curiosity. And maybe in the comments or wherever you listen to this show, maybe pop in the comments which peptides you're curious about. Give me some specific names or specific subject titles that you're curious. and I'll start there. I have my favorites that I'm excited to bring to you and sort of dispel, but I want to hear from you guys too. Like, what are you interested in? What do you want to know more about? Maybe what have you heard about that's very confusing or you're not sure? So pop that in the comments and that'll help guide these future conversations. But know that it's definitely coming. We're going to get down into the nitty-gritty. We're going to get specific. So until next time, we'll catch you later.
Thank you for joining me on Light Body Radio, where functional medicine meets intuitive healing and transformation happens on every level. If this episode resonated with you, please like, share, and if you're ready to go deeper, visit drlaramay.com to book a functional medicine consultation or an intuitive healing session. Whether you need to rebalance your body, clear your energetic blocks, or reconnect with your soul's purpose, I've got you. You can also follow me on Instagram or TikTok at Dr. Lara May for daily inspiration, energy updates, and healing tools. Remember, your healing is multidimensional, and so are you. Until next time, honor your body, trust your intuition, and activate your light.